Welcome, everyone. We are here on the Awful Takes podcast for your enjoyment and your pleasure. And I am here
And misery.
and misery, all wrapped into one. Um, we are the embodiment uh, of guys who think they know everything, but we don't. Yet we try to act like we do. So, welcome. My name is Nabaahi.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sergator Productions.
Um, and we're here with another album review recommendation that I gave to Wallied. And I'm very excited to talk about it. It honestly might be one of my favorite albums of all time.
Oh, nice.
One that I just keep coming back to. We'll get into it as we discuss it. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows, and music, anything kind of related to pop culture, and we offer our own spin on things. And we're trucking along. We have quite a few subscribers and watchers, so if you're joining us, thank you so much. I would appreciate if you subscribed. However, if it's not really something that you're interested in, that's fine. But just remember us. Remember us for who we are. You sound really pretentious right there. But the album we're going to be talking about today is called The Dreamwalker by Angels and Airwaves, and it came out in 2014.
10
This for
years.
me, yeah, 10 years. Holy shit. Wow. God, I'm old. This album for me is a very important album. It is for me kind of a mature step into my own taste in terms of music and what I like, and kind of being more kind of experimental and being maybe a little more abstract. But this is an album I keep coming back to. It for me, this is a personal album for me, which I guess all music is. So I'm very excited to talk about it. Again, the first time I heard this album, I'll kind of explain my headspace going into it. Obviously, growing up, I was a huge fan of Angels and Airwaves from the moment they were created, and I heard their first couple songs. I was such a big fan. However, before this album, they did a double album, and in my own personal opinion, the second part of that album started to sound a little similar to other things they had written. And it's kind of sounded like they were repeating themselves again. They were echoing things they had already done. And it's no knock on that album. I still love it and listen to it to this day. However, this was like a reformation, a reimagining kind of first step. So the background of this album, they were pretty much a formed band, and they were touring, writing music, and all this stuff. Then they kind of went on like a little break, hiatus. And coming into this record, the unfortunate passing of their sound engineer, he went by the name of Critter, kind of left the band in kind of a flux, because Critter was very much a glue that kind of held everything together. So now without him, Tom kind of struggled with, how am I going to write music without my interpreter, someone who can better explain my thoughts than I do. A
Mhm.
lot of times in music and also art in general, you find those pairings where it's you have someone so creative, yet you need that other person to translate that into the workings of musical structure, production, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of those situations in music. So we had one coming into this album, and Tom went and found a drummer. And when he found him, it was this kid named Alon Rubin, and he toured with Nine Inch Nails. He was just a super crazy, amazing drummer, but he was
Wow.
also a multi uh, instrumentalist. He knows how to play piano. He knows how to play guitar. He knows how to program his own synths. He literally does everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
he sings. So it was like this meeting of two worlds, of someone like Tom, who is very much a splatter of paint on the wall and he thinks it's cool, with someone like Alon Rubin, who is very structured and very orchestral and knows musical theory, knows how to write his own music, knows literally all the other stuff that involves music. So it's like this meeting of two worlds. And I swear on this record, it just works for me in the best way. Before this album came out, Tom would put snippets up on his Instagram, and I swear for like a year, that's all I did was listen to those little 10-second clips of this album. And the day this album came out, like I was so happy and so excited. And over the long term, it's something that I still just come back to. You know, despite all the hype, despite everything, this for me was just a really great album. Each song kind of has its own feel. It has its own driving force behind it. And I love albums like that. This one's very short. It's just 10 tracks to the point. Some of their other albums, they go on for an hour.
Oh wow.
And you know, you have long intros, crazy bridges, crazy interludes. This album very much felt like a reformation of Tom started to realize I'm kind of sounding the same. I need to do something different. And yeah, I just really love this record. Wally, going into it, what was your knowledge when I said the Dreamwalker? What were you thinking? Were you like, what is this?
Yeah, so kind of like the last album, album Nabaahi recommended. I had no idea about Angels and Airwaves. I know it's a band you've talked about a few times when we've talked about music, and I wasn't really sure kind of like what the sound was gonna be. I thought maybe it was gonna be a bit more like punk, which it is to an extent for
Hmm.
sure. But yeah, I was put on the first track and I was just like really surprised, just kind
Hmm.
of just with the sound and everything of the album and
Yeah.
everything like that. So yeah, another one that I wasn't really too familiar with, but came out surprisingly enjoying. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
That's
it
good.
was. I thought it was gonna be all right, but I ended up really liking this a lot.
All
I thought
right.
this was good. So
Perfect. So the first song we have "Teenagers and Rituals." Wow, the opening has this crescendo piano, and what a way to just start out! Just
yeah.
immediately, just you hear this piano strike, and then it just crescendos into this kind of trance-like kind of feel, and then these drums kick in, and this whole song just feels like it's like building, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I swear when I first heard that piano, I was just like, "What the hell? This is like totally different." I guess Wallied, with the piano and the buildup of everything, how are you feeling? Were you just like, "What is this?"
At first, I was like, what's going on?" And then once the track like kind of started and like all those like guitars and like
Yeah,
the just like the tempo of the track just got faster, I was like, "Whoa, okay, like this is a really killer
yeah,
like intro." And then
it's
just the
insane.
hook goes super hard. I was like, "Wow, I'm like
Yeah,
really loving this."
nice.
And yeah.
Yeah, and then the lyrics come in, lightning crossed the way. No, I can't rest, been up for weeks. The words they coming close. They got a nerve that never sleeps for me. Just his kind of way he's going about these lyrics feels like he's almost like attacking them. His delivery on this album in general just feels totally different than a lot of stuff you would hear in Angels and Airwaves or in Blink. Again,
Okay.
like just my whole perception with this is he was very much trying to do something different. And then when you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, you could tell that this was a real struggle for him. Like he tells Alon and Alon's brother, who's a producer, he was like, "You don't have any idea how challenging it is to write lyrics and hooks over what you guys are coming up with. Like the music and things you guys are writing is just like I've never done this before. This is a real challenge."
Hmm.
Which for me, I think the challenge really helped aid in the end product of each of these songs. And
Yeah,
then you kind
definitely.
of get into this pre-chorus, which seems a little filler, you know, just like these kind of vocal hymes, you know,
Yeah.
which I mean, obviously, I like them. I will say it is a little filler. Wish he kind of wrote something maybe a little bit more
Yeah.
catchy. And then he goes into this chorus, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Lonely cat like master, drive me, take me faster. I that side back alley, add to the score, join in the war rally. Crazy. I really enjoy this song. Again, this crescendo kind of piano mixed with these guitars, mixed with the drums. Even when it goes back into the reintro, I like how they changed it up. Like the first time, it was just like these pianos. Yet when it goes back into the reintro, they have like this delay muted guitar to help you kind of feel like the angst of this kind of song.
Okay.
Again, the whole song
Yeah.
just sounds like it's building, and what a way to just start the record! I swear, I just love this intro. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. Wallied, how were you feeling with this track?
Yeah, this is a great intro for sure. It definitely got me really excited for sure. And I was just like
Mm.
looking into the lyrics too. I was like, especially in the second verse, I was like, wow, this is kind of like dark, you know? Um, I kind of, my interpretation of it at least was like, because he mentions like a drink or two in the second verse. So I was like, oh, is
uh,
it kind of like an alcoholism type of thing?
mm,
And then kind of like throughout the track, it's kind of like it feels like him kind of like speed running through his life basically.
wow,
And
that's
that's kind of
great.
how I took it, at least from the first track. So I was like really catchy, but
Yeah.
like really fast paced, and it was just almost like it fit perfectly with like what the lyrics were kind of saying.
Wow. Yeah, that verse, I mean, start right away. I can't recite the names or events that come to me, the blur of times and dates. Like in our life, like things just kind of go by.
Hmm.
And then you look back, some stuff you remember, but also some things just kind of just blur. And you're just like, where is the time gone?
Yeah,
But yeah, this track was just super, for me, it was just a great intro. Again, right away when you hear that
definitely.
piano, right away when you hear the crescendos and everything, this is such a different song than anything Angels and Airwaves has ever done. So
Oh wow,
hearing this
yeah.
for me was just like a breath of fresh air of like, holy shit, like they're really doing this right now.
Hmm.
Especially for a band's fifth record. Um, you've done records, you're kind of getting a feel for things, but then you also have to remember sometimes you can kind of repeat yourself and you can kind of start to lose track of the musical process and coming at each song like it's your first song. You know?
Hmm.
Um,
Definitely.
but yeah, really like that track.
Yeah,
All
great
right.
opening.
Now we get into the song Paralyzed. How you thought the first one started out and you thought you got a feel for what this record's going to be, this song completely changes it.
Really
um,
though.
Starts with this just cymbal. It just starts with this cymbal just kind of just doing this little beat. And you're just like, okay, what is this? And then the drums just kick in, and man, you hear the guitar, you hear the bass. One thing I love is that the bass syncs up with the drums, very punchy,
Yeah,
very kind of
groovy
groovy.
bass line for
But then the
sure.
guitar is just
Yeah.
kind of like adding fuzz and like a delay kind of behind the bass and the drums that just puts you in this like,
Sick.
whoa, this crazy state. I love how that intro is just going from the cymbal, just super straightforward, no kind of effects or anything, and it just brings you into the song. I swear this really just kind of threw me for a loop of like, what what is this? One
Yeah.
thing I'll mention with this song is this was actually the first song to come out in this
Okay.
kind of new era. It was unfortunately leaked at the time. It wasn't planned to
Ooh,
be a single.
yikes.
Um, so hearing it the first time, I will admit, I was like, what is going on? What this band is like completely changing its sound, but I also really loved it. This to me is a great song on this record and really has just a totally different feel than the first song on the track. And what a
Mm.
way to subvert expectations by just, oh, yeah, there's that first song, but here's the second one. This is totally different. Wally, what were you thinking with
Y-
this?
Yeah, for me, I really loved like the change of pace on the second track. I wasn't because again, I wasn't really sure what kind of sound it was going for. I didn't know if it was gonna be more like the first track, but I love
Mm-hmm.
that like it kind of just like it gets little bit more laid back, a little bit more dancey and groovy with this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then especially with the lyrics too, I like that it kind of like blurred the lines between like a dream reality state.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved that, and I was like, okay, I have like I think this track gave me an idea of like, okay, this is like kind of a bit of like a concept album
Hmm.
of like what it's going for, and I really loved it a lot. I thought it was a
Yeah.
really great follow up to the first track.
Crazy lyrics. Sleep and waking to life for a hell of a ride. Sleep and waking to life with your hands at your side. Paralyzed. Obviously, I think this song is kind of referring to like a sleep paralysis type thing.
Yeah.
You obviously wake and you're aware you're awake, but you're also kind of still in a dream, you know?
Mhm.
Kind of blurs the line between what's real and what isn't. Yeah, crazy. I love the just instrumentals to this track. It just comes in straight away and just throws you into it. It was for me a breath of fresh air. I know some people obviously Angels and Airwaves is known for their intros, their build-ups and stuff, but I feel like this has that kind of build-up feel, but maybe just in a different way. Wallied, eventually when we talk about more Angels and Airwaves, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Some of their
Okay.
intros can go on for like two minutes before they get into the actual song.
Oh, got you.
Um,
It's very progressive, it seems.
yeah,
Okay.
but this each song is around like 3 to 4 minutes, which is different. You know,
Okay.
this for me was very much like like I said, a restructuring, like trying to figure out how do we come about this.
Got
Um,
you.
but
Okay.
yeah, really love this track. Love the vocals. Some of the lyrics are a bit more kind of abstract,
For sure.
and which is cool and everything. I think it really helps to that feel of, you know, again, blurring the line between dream and reality, and obviously kind of coming to grips with, okay, I'm awake, I'm here, this is life, this is what I'm doing. Really great second track. Honestly, I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Um,
Really great
but yeah,
second track.
all right. Now we are on to the Wolfpack, the first single off the album, and one of
Ah.
my favorite songs on this album. Again, comes in totally different feel. The first one had like this piano crescendo thing. The second one seemed to be kind of based around these drums and these bass lines, guitars. This one is a very synth heavy electric kind of song. The
Hmm.
synths just come in right away, crazy like intro, and then the lyrics just come in a lot faster than the other songs, which to me is really great. Wally, what were you thinking with this track three?
Yeah, I really loved the instrumental. I loved how it started out. However, I will say I wasn't too crazy about the vocal performance on this
Mm-hmm.
track for me. And I thought the hook wasn't my personal favorite. I didn't, I guess maybe for me, maybe I might be looking a little bit too into it, but I thought the kind of like, I got the life, but that girl bites like a wolf. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
line was kind of like a little iffy to me. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that one really works for me all that much, but I will say I love the instrumental, but I think like lyrically and vocally, I think it could have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm. I've heard different interpretations of this song. One I've heard is that when he's talking about the wolf refers to like the music industry of like,
Okay.
you know, you made it, but each time, you know, you're kind of subplanted into this one-sided kind of relationship of, you know, you give it your all, but you're still getting torn down each time, you know,
Got you.
which
Okay.
makes sense obviously when you're a songwriter and you've written 10 plus albums, like how many times do you have to keep going through it before you start to realize like this is kind of one-sided, you know, this relationship is, I'm not getting much out of it besides, you know, fame and things like that. But I feel like to Tom as a writer, it's more about him giving it his all each time, you know, and to be
Got
kind
you.
of broken down each time, it doesn't feel too rewarding, you know.
Okay. Yeah, for
um,
sure.
but yeah, I don't know. For me, this song again, 3 songs in, and I feel like this album is just offering totally different things. Like, man, I just can't praise this album enough for that.
Hmm.
And for me, I really like the chorus. I like the rhyming scheme. I like the kind of build off each other for each line. And the chorus is very, very kind of catchy. And it's just like, okay, like obviously the whole verse and pre chorus is kind of building. But when it gets to that chorus, you're just like, whoa, like I wasn't really ready to hear uh, that kind of catchiness brought into a song like this. But
Mm.
yeah, overall, the instrumentals, everything about this track, I really, really enjoyed. It's a nice kind of, again, diversion of something Angels and Airwaves normally does. Hearing this track, hearing it at the time when it came out was just like, again, he's literally changing everything you thought you knew about this band, and he's making it different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Wolfpack for me just an absolutely great, great track.
It's great to hear.
All right,
Right.
we are on to track 4,
Oh.
Tunnels. This one is probably the most personal track on this album. I believe this was written about his dad passing away and kind of coming to terms with being at that stage in your life when you're losing your parents, but also having that two-sided relationship of his dad wasn't really there for him growing up. You know, he
Mm.
was kind of raised without his dad. His dad wasn't really someone that gave it his all, but also you're still kind of sad about it, you know. You kind of have that two-way relationship with certain people like that in your life. Again, this feels totally different from
From
each
the last
track
song,
before it.
yeah.
I can't praise this album enough. Like this one comes in with like these delay guitars, then you have just like this simple drum beat just kind of echoing in the back. And then you have this kind of main guitar over your kind of delayed riff, and it sounds really great. Wallied, what were you thinking with this track?
Yeah, I really loved the lyrics on this one, and I loved the build-up. However, I do kind of wish that the track kind of exploded into like
Yeah.
the second half.
Hmm.
I would say that was like probably one of my only complaints with the song. It's just I think for me when it comes to like ballads, I it's more of maybe a preference thing for me, but I love like when it can like just be like minimal and small, but then like when you get to like the second half, it can like
Yeah.
build and explode. And I was really hoping that for the song, but I was kind of like a little disappointed by the end where I was like, oh, it's just like the song just kind of ended, you
I will
know.
say I wish
But
there was
yeah.
maybe a little bit more of the build. The chorus does come in very kind of abrupt,
Hmm.
which I don't mind. Obviously, now I've listened to this track hundreds of times.
Yeah, yeah.
However, this would have been a nice if there were any song on this album where you could have benefited from more of a build. I feel like this song would have been it.
Yeah, definitely.
However, this song in general to me feels the most like Angels and Airwaves of what we've known. So when you
Got you.
listen to this
Okay.
song, listen to their past albums, you can see the DNA of the former band in this song.
Okay.
Some of the lyrics I just love, especially the intro. I'm still without devotion because we're all asleep at the wheel, asleep and so surrounded by what we feel. I love the line on a rope, pulled through the ocean with my heart. I'm lost out at sea, and every kind of thought screams misery. That to me is great writing.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, this track again, it just feels different from the first three, and a bit more slower, a bit more personal, but also uplifting in a way. It really feels like you're being inspired. It feels like you are surmounting something that is insurmountable, which is something I know a lot of people resonate with Angels and Airwaves. Has that
Okay.
kind of uplifting feel, and I'm glad that this song is here. And this song is very kind of personal to both Alon and Tom. I know when they were writing this song, it originally started out as kind of like a folk song. They wrote it on like acoustic
Oh,
guitars,
wow.
and it was just kind of like this own personal thing. But they didn't have a chorus, and they didn't have one for a long, long time. And Tom describes this situation where he woke up in the middle of the night and he was having like this existential kind of crisis experience, and he was just like felt like he was being bombarded by some kind of outward force that he couldn't see. Then he wakes up, he looks at it like he's just like in this weird state, and then he looks over at his phone, and it was the hospice telling him that his dad died, had just passed away, and
Oh,
he was going through that whole thing, and past that point he was able to kind of come up with the chorus of don't you go, come a little bit closer now, like this whole kind of him talking to someone who had passed away. And it really is really kind of powerful. And you start to realize like the people in your life, you may not be too close to them, but when they pass away, you you still feel it, you know, even if it was someone that you weren't too close to, someone who maybe had done you wrong in your past, it can still hurt, you know, and you can still feel that. But
Mhm.
yeah, this song for me was just really great. Then we are on to Kiss with the Spell. Very, very trance like this song is. I swear, this song with the synths and everything, with this kind of guitar, with this going between both speakers, stereo type feel. I swear you could put this song on late at night when you're driving, and it's gonna put you in this kind of trance. Wally, what were you thinking with this song?
This is what I actually really liked. I love the little synth. I don't know if it's like a synth bass or something, but like this really cool synth at like the beginning of
Yeah.
the track. And then I just kind of dug a lot of the lyrics for sure, especially in like the first verse,
Hmm.
of him just kind of being alone in this like desert world or
Yeah.
something. I will say though, however, I wasn't too crazy about the hook on this track,
Hmm.
especially like the random like synth that came in felt kind of a
Yeah.
little off.
Yeah. I will say, out of all the tracks on this album, this one is probably my least favorite.
Okay.
However, I have grown to like the chorus more and more. However, this is a very, very dark song. For instance, he says, I pray like the kids do in hell. A child and a master, like, holy shit, like, this song's freaking dark. Yet it's kind of put in this kind of trance like kind of music. Very kind of for me experimental of just like how do you go about writing a song like this? This feels insane. Um, yeah, Wally, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this song?
No, not too much to say. Again, really loved. I will say one thing throughout the album is I love all pretty much most of the instrumentals. I thought they were all really well made, and I loved the instrumental on this one especially, just with that really awesome like little synth intro and
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely great. Again, it might be my least favorite, but I still
Yeah, yeah.
do enjoy this song quite a bit. If you're driving late at night, put this song on. It might put you in a mood or like a vibe or something.
Okay.
Um, Crazy.
Gotcha.
All right, then we're on to Mercenaries.
Ooh.
This is kind of like bringing you into the second half of the album, and it kind of brings you in this almost angsty, straightforward, kind of aggressive kind of song. Uh, it starts out with like this kind of synth building, and then it just divulges into this guitar driven track.
It surprised me for sure. I was like,
Insane.
wait, what? I was like, that was like a really cool like switch up. I loved that a lot.
Yeah, this song for me was definitely one of the, you know, it kind of is like the track six. This is kind of the one you kind of find later on after you've listened to a lot of times and you're like, oh wait, this is here. This is a really good song, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously when I first heard it, I love kind of that angsty stuff. I love the stuff that really uh feels anthemic, you know. And this song is just all that. Um, Lyrics again, a bit more abstract and stuff, but it is also kind of dealing with a lot of the stuff we hear on the albums before. Coming to what would it be like if you were coming towards the end of your life? You know, how does that feel, and how do you push past almost like a near death experience? You know,
Okay.
yeah, this song is kind of insane.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this song. Wally, what were you thinking about this one?
Yeah, this one was great. This was actually probably like one of my personal favorite tracks on the album for sure. I
Nice.
loved, again, the instrumental was absolutely incredible. I loved the hook. This was probably
Hmm.
my favorite hook on the
Oh
album for
wow,
sure.
nice.
Yeah, I loved it a lot. The synth build up at the beginning was great. Vocally too, I loved the vocal performance on this song.
Hmm.
And for me, I feel like what the ghosts kind of represent are almost kind of like personal inner demons, as I kind
Wow,
of see it, with him
nice.
being in like the dreamlike state.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how I took the lyrics, and I thought it was great.
And I love the breakdown of that pre-chorus too. The moment he gets into the ghost line, everything kind of disappears, you know, and you're left with these
Yeah.
vocals, and it's just like, holy shit, like the verse was super anthemic and kind of angsty and really driving this feeling of shit's about to happen. And then you get to the pre-chorus and you're just like, whoa, where's this track going? And then it goes into the chorus. And you got these drums coming back in, and wow, his song is really just as explosive. And I feel like this one just builds a lot, and it
Hmm.
really just feels rewarding each time I hear it. Especially, I love the chorus. You didn't need to count me out. When the final push is a little weight on your neck sometimes. And not to mention the harmonizing that's going on between him and Alon, just for me on this track, really is good. I really love it. I really enjoy it. I feel like both of their voices just do such a great job of complementing each other in a
Yeah,
great way.
great chemistry for
Yeah,
sure.
really great. I would say this song is more guitar driven, maybe similar to Paralyzed.
Okay.
However, it has a totally different feel. Paralyzed was something that was a little bit more hooky and catchy. This song is just like straightforward at your face and you're along for the ride. You know, this
Hmm.
this is a really good song. And yeah, one of my favorites off the album for sure. And again, this album's full of it. You're just gonna hear me saying it, and that's why it's one of my favorite albums. But Bullets in the Wind, we have a totally different feel. This feels like some kind of 80s kind of rock song or something
Yeah.
with like this kind of guitar coming in and the way his vocals are in this record just insane and lyrics is really the chorus is really catchy, pre-chorus is great, and again I just appreciate it because it does feel tonally different than everything else. Wally, what were you thinking with Bullets in the Wind?
Yeah, this was another big surprise for sure. Again, like just awesome instrumental. I really loved in the second half that like really awesome like delay on like the lead singer's vocals. I
Oh
thought was like
yeah.
so cool. It was like perfect ear candy.
Hmm.
I think my favorite part about the song was the bridge for sure. I thought the
Nice.
bridge was incredible.
It is great.
Yeah, and the OOs that you hear throughout are just so awesome and they
Yeah.
complement the song really, really well.
No, I agree. Again, everything on this album feels different. Each song has its own kind of purpose, and this song I think is a perfect way to show that. You play this
Hmm.
song after everything else you've heard. Already you're 7 songs in and you're still kind of getting surprised. You're still kind of just like, where is this going? Like, I don't know. I love albums like that. I don't like it when albums kind of start to sound the same after a few
Yeah,
songs.
you kind of samey, that
Yeah,
same sound.
exactly. This one, it's like they wrote 10 different songs and they
Yeah,
just kind
you
of
just like
threw it
change the pace of
together.
it. Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely amazing. And this one really just kind of grooves with this guitar lick, with the
Oh yeah.
drums, everything. Just really, really great.
Hmm.
Great vocals too. Just amazing, amazing track. All right. Now we are on to one of my personal favorites, The Disease. For me, I love the drums on this album, especially, or on this record, especially the breakdown leading into the second verse. Alon does like this drum fill that just sounds amazing. And for me, I love the chorus, very trance like, very kind of spoken word kind of chant.
Hmm.
Um, but the harmonizing and everything, man, it just feels like, whoa, this is great. And the lyrics, I wait you again, and I can feel your touch. I call your name to the wind, and into the nightfall, my love. Uh, Great, very kind of 80s, you know.
Yeah, it's
um,
got a bit of that 80s aesthetic to it throughout,
yeah.
especially in the second half for sure.
What were you thinking with the disease, Wallied?
Yeah, for me, I think what stood out to me the most was I really loved the lyrics on this song, and
Yeah.
I think my interpretation of it at least was like him kind of reuniting with this like lost love that he's had,
Hmm.
in this kind of, I guess, still dream world that he's kind of in pretty much, him kind of reminiscing and reuniting with that person almost.
Hmm.
I really loved it. I really loved it lyrically wise.
Yeah.
Instrumentally, I thought it was pretty solid. Not my favorite, but
Hmm.
I did really like it.
Yeah. For me, biggest praise of this song in general for me is just the drums. If I were to ever somehow manage the talent to learn drums, I would. This would probably be one of the first songs I'd learn.
Oh, sick.
Um, I just love this drum beat in this song, and obviously the fills and everything. Just super, super amazing. Love the chorus. This for me is maybe one of my favorite choruses on the album that I keep coming back to. every time I listen to it, I can't wait to hear that chorus. And I love songs like that where you're just like waiting for your favorite part to happen.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
then
I
when you
know that
hear it, you're
feeling.
just like,
Yeah.
yes, let's go. One thing I will say, when the song ends, it does kind of come kind of abruptly, but I think it works. I
Yeah.
think it kind of helps differentiate between this and then the next song. But
Yeah.
overall, this is definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album.
That's sick. Yeah.
All right, we're on the last two songs, starting out with Tremors.
Tremors.
Different, very kind of uplifting with these kind of synths and everything. Love the lyrics and everything. I will say some of the lyrics, not my favorites.
Yeah.
I get what Tom was going for with the whole "I get off this way," but it's not really my thing. I do know he was probably trying to go for like that '80s kind of feel,
Cheese.
cheese, but it was okay.
Yeah.
I will say this might be probably on the lower half for me as far as favorites in terms of this album, but I still think it's really good. And
Okay.
again, I still think this offers a different feel, um, and it feels like its own song.
Cool. Cool.
Wally, what were you thinking with Tremors?
I thought this one was good. I thought the first half I didn't really care for all that much. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
okay, but I think the second half won me over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved the kind of instrumental a lot more in the second half, and I also kind of really dug the chorus a little bit more.
Yeah,
Just in the second half for that one. But yeah, I would
yeah.
just say overall this one was it's good.
I will
Yeah,
say it felt like eh, this one they didn't quite hit the mark.
yeah.
I did feel like the verses were just a little I don't know, not lazy, but maybe just because they kind of end with the "so come on" line, and each kind of line just kind of ends with that. I was like, I wanted a little bit more, especially with everything we'd heard on the album before, with the great rhyming schemes and things. This
Hmm.
one just felt like, all right, we kind of need to add another song, you know.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy it. Honestly, when I listen to this album, I don't really skip any tracks on this album, even this song included. But also, this one for me does fall into the realm of repetitiveness, which is something I know Angels and Airwaves is kind of frowned upon for doing when they kind of repeat choruses two, three times. And then also on this song, maybe what would have made me enjoy it maybe a little bit more was the bridge. I felt like maybe they could have came up with something different,
Hmm.
but they didn't. So this track does kind of fall towards the bottom of my list if I was ranking them. But
Okay.
yeah, still enjoyed it though. I
Yeah.
still feel like I it adds to the overall feel.
Got you.
And then we end with a very interesting song in Angels and Airwaves discography, and I really enjoy this song's title, and it has a kind of double meaning. It's called Anomaly, and obviously the song refers to that, and it's a lyric and a part of that song. But also, this is an anomaly for Angels and Airwaves to write an acoustic song, which is something they don't do and hardly ever do. This was pretty much their first whole acoustic song that they came out with.
Oh wow.
So to get to
Okay.
this later half of the album and to hear this, I was just it blew my mind, and I was just like, "Holy crap, this is amazing." Obviously, this one is kind of maybe a bit more kind of love song, kind of cheesy and stuff, but I still feel like it does it really well, and I feel like I like the kind of double track vocals of the track. I love that kind of a rhythm that they're going for, and especially the breakdown going into the chorus. I really love. Wally, what were you thinking with Anomaly?
Yeah, I really loved this closer. I thought it really ended off strong, honestly.
Yeah,
I really loved the lyrics. I thought the vocals were probably the best on this album
yeah,
for sure, especially with like the harmonizing and the
hmm
like kind of double vocals that you were talking about. And then I think just the instrumental, just AJ just kill it with the instrumental
kill
on
it.
this.
Yeah,
I really loved it a lot, and it like just wraps up the album like really nice,
hmm
especially with like the lyrics and him kind of like going through that love process in that. I'm guessing still Dream State, but
hmm
yeah, I really loved it.
Yeah, I feel like this song is very much kind of a broken down thing. Uh, that we've seen Angels and Airwaves and Tom do in general. He loves, obviously he's known for writing love songs. That's what emotion he feels a lot. However, with this song, to write it more stripped down, more kind of just being like a nerve, like this is here, this is who I am, just simple guitars, lyrics, simple beat, feels very personal. And obviously, I love some of the lyrics. The second verse, I love the "Hey there, since you've been gone, I've written about you. These words, they're no Hemingway. They don't have any value to any line." I love that. That's to me just a really great kind of verse. And then the chorus, I mean, come on, guys. When you listen to this, we've all felt this before. You have someone who you love, who you appreciate, yet you have a hard time saying it, you know. The whole chorus, I never wanted to say how much I liked you. Then it evolves into this, I never wanted to say how much I loved you. Come on, we've all felt that before. Every single one of us has felt that. And to see it written down in such a great way, and the fact that you always wanted to be someone who stands different from everyone else. You know, you want it to be an anomaly. Is such a great line, and honestly, that's pretty much what everyone wants. You never want to be thrown in with a bunch of other people. You want to be someone who stands out. You know, so yeah, for me, this was a great closer. So different than anything Angels and Airways had ever done. And the first time I heard it, I was just like, what the hell? What a way to end this album. Like, amazing. Again, your first song, piano, crescendo, kind of building. Second song, guitar driven, bass, drums. Third song's like your synth driving, force, craziness. Fourth song, very ballad like, kind of crazy, its own thing. This album has it all. And then, not to mention this song, acoustic. Like, what is this album? Every time I hear it, I'm just like, how did they go about this? And how did they make each song kind of fit together in terms of an album, but each song has its own feel and it feels different. My only downside with this album in general is the mixing. I feel like the mix is a little muddled. Oftentimes when I first heard it, I was struggling to hear the lyrics with the overall mix of the album.
Yeah.
However, after listening to it, obviously dozens of times, reading lyrics, it works now, and I do know the thought process behind this album was Angels and Airwaves was known for their glossy production, their super straightforward type music. This one was more made to kind of tie it back to like a garage band punk kind of feel.
Okay.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what they try to do in terms of the production. However, I need at least a little better mix to kind of have the vocals stand out a little bit. Sometimes they get kind of lost in the production.
Definitely in a few of the tracks for sure,
Yeah.
especially in like the middle portion. I kind of felt that where I was like, I kind of had to have the lyrics
Yeah.
with me.
And you
so I
really
can
have
see.
to turn it up. You got to crank it up to hear everything. But that's the thing. Like when you have good headphones and all that, you hear it. However, it's for a first time listen. If I was recommending this to someone, I don't think you could just put this on and get super invested with like a $20 pair of headphones. I feel like you would need to give this its own space, its own thing, simply just because of the production. I get what they were going for, but you maybe want to make it just a little more clear. That'd probably be my only downside with this album. But I get what they were going for.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess Wallied, overall thoughts with this album. Your first time listening to Angels and Airwaves. What were you thinking?
Big surprise for sure. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty solid. I do think the middle portion was kind of the weakest part for me, at least between like the third and fifth tracks. I thought could have been a lot better, especially one of the last tracks, like we mentioned with the Tremors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say overall, I thought this was good. I thought the highs were pretty high for sure. I really dug a lot of the instrumentals. I was surprised just how much synths was kind of used on the album and
Yeah.
everything. And I kind of loved some of the concepts it was going for too, with like the whole dream and reality state. It
Hmm.
worked surprisingly really well for what it was going for. But yeah, I
Yeah.
would say for my first Angels and Airwaves listen, I thought this was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, good
Awesome.
time.
For me, personally, this is one of my favorite albums. I think at one point this was probably the most anticipated album I had ever had in my life.
Wow.
This came at a time when I was really struggling with anxiety and having panic attacks all the time. And I remember when this album came out, it distracted me enough to where I felt normal again. I know that sounds weird, and to say that sounds weird, but for those of you who do have panic attacks and struggle with anxiety, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Um, that's no reflection in terms of what I think of the writing or anything like that, but that was just like my personal headspace before this album came out. And I just remember listening to it and not being disappointed. Um, I swear, like I couldn't have been more anticipating an album before its release. I was checking literally every day for news about this album. When is it coming out? When are we finally going to hear it? And again, for me, the breath of fresh air of bringing in someone like Alon Rubin, this multi instrumentalist, amazing songwriter, and pairing him with someone like Tom DeLonge, who writes simple, kind of straightforward kind of melodies and hooks and stuff. How do you tie those two together? And I feel like, man, it really succeeded on this album because this doesn't sound like something Tom would write, but this also doesn't sound like something Elon would write. You're kind of in a no man's land between both of them. And does it work? I feel like it does. So if you haven't listened to this, tracks I'd recommend you check out would be Paralyzed, The Wolfpack, The Disease, and Anomaly. If you just had to listen to a few songs off this album, I definitely recommend checking those out. However, for me, this is an album that I put on start to finish, and man, each song delivers on its own two legs. Again, I really love this album. I can't state it enough. Yeah,
Sick.
any tracks that stood out that you'd recommend if someone was listening to this for the first time?
Yeah, definitely. Mercenaries for sure would be my top pick. And then obviously I think the first two tracks for sure. I think that first two tracks like gives you a really great idea of what you're in for with the album.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would say those three for sure.
nice. Eventually, I want to talk about obviously more things with Angels and Airwaves and Blink and all the different side projects and stuff. I'm such a big Angels and Airwaves fan, and Tom DeLonge fan in general. So this was really great to kind of recommend this to someone because I honestly don't recommend this to anyone.
Okay, got you.
So this was a very personal listen for me that I was kind of questioning. I was like, do I recommend this? I kind of view this album in such a high regard.
Mhm.
It's like maybe I shouldn't, but I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Like it's one of my favorite albums. So come on. But thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool
Good
album
pick.
review, and definitely check it out and let us know what you guys think. And look forward to more in the
Yes,
future.
definitely. Well, good day and good night, mates.
Later.